All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. So I've been looking forward to this podcast now for weeks, ever since guest agreed to be on this show. Let me give you a little story. So I'm part of this networking group known as MMT, some of the top 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs from around the world. And there are different standout people within this MMT group, people that just magnetically attract a whole bunch of others. And my guest is just one of those people that he's just this beam of light in this group of extraordinary leaders. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. Peter Diamandis, he calls my guest the arsonist of the mind. Tony Robbins calls my guest an extraordinary man, bringing him insights on how to reach people on the internet that are so valuable, a man that you should deal with, take advantage of everything that he has to offer. And that's what Tony Robbins said about my guest. Well, interestingly enough, while we became friends at that MMT networking group, then over the course of time, I've attended all these different events. And my guest just happened to be the speaker at these events. It seemed like every event that I was going to, my guest was on stage. He was talking largely about AI and the impact of AI, how most people are ill-prepared for the impact of AI and how to take advantage of all the opportunities that exist within AI. In today's conversation, we're going to talk a lot about AI. But AI's, or business rather, isn't new to him. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's had 5 successful exits. He's had not just one best-selling book, but a 19 times best-selling author. He's worked with companies big and small. I mean, everything as big as like AT&T and Sony and BMW and whatnot to small, like God knows how many different companies or thousands really of small businesses around the world. I can keep going on and on and on. But you know what? Let's just get right to it. Mr. Michael Koenigs, welcome to the show, my friends.
Man, I love you so much. It's good to be here, my brother.
Dude, I genuinely meant it. When I said I've been looking forward to this call, every time we talk, it doesn't matter if we're in Costa Rica or, wherever we are around the world. It's like, wherever I see you, we always happen to just gravitate, sit down. Time flies by so fast as we just sort of play this intellectual ping pong game, and you never know what comes out of it. It's awesome.
It is. Collaboration is what lights me up more than anything in the world. So even if it's just a collaborative conversation, and it always feels that way with you, you're great at ping pong, intellectual ping pong, spiritual ping pong. So let's get into it. I've been looking forward to this too. I was really happy. I went out for a big walk out in the canyon today. I live in this beautiful canyon in San Diego, and I was like, I can't wait to do this interview today. So
That's awesome.
here we are. Yeah.
One of the reasons why I find you to be one of my most enjoyable thought leaders that I get to talk with is because while you're very aware of the present moment, you are more attuned with the future, and in terms of able to see things that most people aren't able to see. And you did that very, very, very early on, like way back when video marketing was starting to be a thing. You were one of the leaders when it came to, helping people create videos and through SEO and all that other fun stuff, right? And, now you're on stages, big stages all around the world, making people aware of the different changes that AI is having on companies. So I think there's 2 schools of thought. There's one school of thought that they believe, okay, AI is going to be massively disruptive, but I don't know how disruptive. But then there's the other school of thought that says AI is a fad, right? We're seeing kind of both extremes.
Yeah.
So how do you address that? And what do you see happening?
Well, I would say anyone who thinks it's a fad is a fool. Here's what I will tell you is I'm so close to it now that I feel a little bit scared and overwhelmed. And I'm usually the first guy to take something on and immerse myself. And like you had mentioned, I got into online marketing before it was a thing, before there was an internet. And it was like I started getting jobs. My first Sony and 20th Century Fox jobs came from someone seeing some of my work on CompuServe and Prodigy, which were before there was an America Online, before there was You've Got Mail. And I was doing stuff on Apple Link, which was another early platform. Back then, modems seemed a little bit manageable. And then when the internet popped along, I don't know if it felt manageable, but I could get my head underneath it. It was like get my head around it. And right now, AI is moving so incredibly fast. And I've got a development group. And I was just meeting with my team, and we've been producing products, and things are moving so quickly right now. And we're doing training and education. And I'm literally just about to get up, and I'm going to be teaching an AI course at Genius Network with Joe Polish soon in this coming week. And I was meeting with my team saying, okay, what are we going to cover? And the answer is, wow, what interests our clients, meaning all the people who say, here's what I want to use AI for. So I want to help them. But I'm also looking at it going, wow, what are my most pressing problems? What are the problems that I have that other people don't even know they have yet or aren't even thinking about? And that's the speed of AI is a little bit scary in that sense, because there's an enormous amount of information, so much development, so many people moving in so many different directions right now. It's hard to get your head around what the thing is. And so I way over answered the question, but I think it's totally okay to feel a little bit overwhelmed and pull back into your little world and say, where do I need help right now? What special needs do I have? And how can I do it and use AI to be a more human and be a more kind human? And I think that's a really important question to answer.
So back in January of 2023 is when I really first started using AI. And that's when I told my team, if you don't use AI and make this a part of your life within 2 months, then you're no longer going to be needed here. So everybody started to learn an AI. And that was mainly because one of the things that I quickly realized is that if we didn't start using it, then we wouldn't know what we're missing. We wouldn't know the questions to ask. We wouldn't know its capabilities. Like, we just had to use it. Even still, it was so overwhelmed. And I looked at it at a macro scale. I was incredibly overwhelmed. It was getting me out of bed at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I would just come down and just study, because I felt so behind the 8 ball. And that's January 2023.
Yeah.
You actually simplified things for me. I believe it was you. I'm going to give you credit for it anyway, Mike, just in case.
I'll take it. That sounds great.
I think we were in California this time, maybe, when I think you were talking with Jerry and whatnot. And you talked about AI. Think about it in terms of the functions. So think about it. You have a sales function, you have an HR function, you have an admin function, and just look at each function individually and break it down in the problems that you want to solve, the opportunities that you want to maximize. And when you simplified it by function, I realized, wait a minute, it's not a technology so much as we can use AI and envision AI and look at it like it's an intelligent employee. And the framing of it as, and I believe, again, this is where I want to say it was you who said this, think of AI as your most intelligent employee, not necessarily a technology. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that just took away so much of my overwhelm.
I'll plus that and say, a lot of people come to me and go, well, what about it taking my content, taking my knowledge? What about a loss? So there's a lot of fear about a fear of loss, we'll say. Okay, is it going to take my job? Is it going to take this? And it's like, well, tools don't really take your job, but it does replace people who don't evolve.
Yep.
So the example that I heard not that long ago, so there's 3 layers to this. One of them is the intelligence layer, the knowledge layer. Another one is privacy and ownership. And the third is the fear of loss of job, right? So the fear of loss of job simply comes from, in the old days when there were spinning to make thread or cloth, as soon as spinning wheels were made, that made a huge difference. And if you didn't, if you said, well, I'm going to only manually spin, it's my art, Well, maybe you could make some artisan clothing, but I don't think anyone cared about it. Okay. And then when there was a cotton gin, soon there were some people who went in and tried to break the gins because they're afraid of losing their jobs. Okay.
Hmm.
But they soon were obsolete. And it's sort of like, well, they didn't use the tool. And those who embraced a gin and figured out how to invent a cotton gin got very rich. That was the Industrial Revolution, right? So the Industrial Revolution created millionaires, Internet Revolution created billionaires, AI revolution is going to create trillionaires through leverage, massive leverage.
Hmm.
And you just can't stop the tool. And with regards to the ownership, here's the mental exercise I usually give folks is you went to school or you read a book, and yet you think you have original thoughts. We're derivative based creatures. We think we're creating something unique or special, and maybe we are because it's circumstantial. But the fact is, we're creating derivative work from everything we've ever learned before. And AI's studied and read everything and can recall them very quickly. It's just a tool that remembers stuff and can remember it in a specific order, but it knows practically everything. And you gave up your right to privacy the moment you accepted a smartphone.
Hmm.
You gave it all up. And the moment you put anything online, including all your social media, you gave it all up. The thing already knows what you think and how you communicate and what you talk about. Now it's being used in a way we hadn't imagined before. And so I think the real deal is it's easy to get sensationalist and fearful. And the truth is it's just another tool. It's not hype. It's here. It's been built into just about every device you've ever bought or purchased over the past few years. Anyway, our cars and our appliances and our phones, it's just been invisible. And
Hmm.
now when ChatGPT came out and we had a kind of a perfect interface, which was a chat interface, something we're all related to, which is, oh yeah, it's a mobile phone. It's like talking to a person. I don't want to take away the fear. I think it's just a matter of now we've got a new language to learn and
Yep.
a new way to become more human and a new way to become 100 or 1,000 times smarter. And people who choose not to use it, or just like when you see some kids sitting on Instagram all day or TikTok, phones can make you 100 times dumber
Yep.
or 100 times smarter and more efficient. And you get to make that choice, whether it's through ignorance or choice, right?
Well, I think what we're going to see is a great divide. We're going
Yeah.
to see a big separation. You're going to see some people that are going to get extremely smarter, and that curve
Yeah.
is going to be an exponential curve. And then you're going to get some people that are going to get dumber, and that curve is going to grow wide. You're going to see
Yeah.
some employees becoming incredibly more valuable, and you're going to see some
Mhm.
employees in the exact same role becoming less and less relevant. And
Yeah.
part of that is multiple fold. On one hand, the majority of the people are going to use AI. They're going to plug in a simple prompt. They're going to take the answer as God's word, and they're going to just run with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other group of people,
Yeah. I
they
got a couple of attorneys in big trouble a few months ago.
yeah,
It's like,
right, yeah.
oh, you mean it makes stuff up? Whoa. Yeah.
But I mean, you're going to get that other group of people. They're going to see it, and they're going to go, "I'm going to ask the question that nobody else is asking," and they're going to go to a level 2 and a level 3 type of thinking where they're able to ask questions that nobody else is asking, be able to use at a significantly higher level. They'll bring context to a conversation, which AI doesn't have the context. They've read every book and internet page and everything else, but there's so much information out there. Information is only good in the form of the context that you plan on using it. And so as a human, we bring the experience that provides the context that can set the direction of AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then on the flip side of the coin, I ran this exercise both in sales because I do a lot of training for B2B sales and whatnot. So I ran this for sales. I've run this for admins. I've run this for everywhere, where I've entered the prompt and I said, in what ways will the traditional B2B salesperson become irrelevant by the year 2020? And
Mm-hmm.
so it laid all the ways in which the B2B salesperson will be replaced by AI and the whole deal. And I'm like, okay. Now, for most people, it would stop there and they'd get scared. But AI is awesome because AI will teach you how to compete against itself. You just have to ask different questions. So
Yes.
now ask, and what are the skills that I need to develop in order for me to remain relevant as a B2B salesperson by the year 2028. It'll tell you exactly how to compete against itself. It does this for admins. It does this all across the board. So we have a tool that will put a lot of people out of business, and that we have a tool that will put a lot of people out of a job for one primary reason, because they never thought to ask the tool, how do I compete against you? And AI has no shame and will tell you how to compete against itself.
That's really wise. So just before I came on, I was with my wife, Vivian, who she's been doing philanthropic nonprofit work for almost 20 years. So, and she started on the ground in Uganda and then working in India. And she texted me a couple hours ago saying, she asked me a question because she saw me do a demonstration. And basically, here's what the demo is. So I'm going to stack what you just said about how to make it 6 times better, but how it got used in a practical real world situation. So there's one tool, it's called Poe. Another one that I recommend all the time, it's called chathub.gg. Now what ChatHub lets you do is talk to 6 different AIs at the same time. So for example, would be if I typed in a question into, like, let's say ChatGPT, I'd get one response, and I might have to wait, however long, a couple of moments for that result to come out. Okay. Now with ChatHub, what I'm able to do is ask the same question, and I can get 6 AIs to run at once. I can type in, I want you to write a script about Charles and Mike and the Beyond 7 Figures podcast that blah, 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 blah. And if I just fed it a little bit of information, or I could just take your bio and my bio, combine them together, hit enter, boom, and spit something out. Now, if I put it into ChatHub or Poe, I can tell it to use OpenAI or ChatGPT, Gemini, which is Google, Claude 3, which is Anthropic, which has got an IQ of 101, Bing, Perplexity, and then another one called Grok, G-R-O-Q. All 6 of them at the same time, and I get 6 different answers. Now, they're all trained with different intelligences, and they're trained with different knowledge, and the large language model, it's unique. So anyway, what's great about it is what the human brain is really good at is looking at something and determining what is better or worse than the other. In other words, you don't have to be an expert at anything to know that something sounds better or looks better than the other thing. And then, like you were saying earlier, you can ask the AI to proof or correct itself. There's a great little command that says, reflect on this response and refine it for me. Reflect on this response. And what it will do is it will reanalyze the output it produced and make sure it accurately represents in the answer it was asked. I just learned that not long ago. So back to my wife, Vivian. So she's got a group of people on the ground who work in this nonprofit. It's called the Just Like My Child Foundation. She does something called the Girl Power Project. So it's basically helping girls take control of their uteruses, so they don't get sold or trafficked or forced child marriage, early child marriage, or sexually enslaved, all kinds of terrible things that happen to young girls in developing countries. And so she's got a group of young leaders coming together in India and Uganda, none of which have ever met each other. And what she did is she fed into Poe, which works just like ChatHub, all of the bios of these leaders and what their roles are, and said, give me a list of 3 questions each of these women should ask each other in an interview format or as a way to get to know each other. And boom, it spit out all these responses. Okay.
Super cool.
Now, if you think about how incredibly challenging it would be to analyze all these people, all their backgrounds, and then come up with different questions just to organize that, it'd be near impossible. But because it had context of relationship and bio and position and the roles, boom. I mean, it could take you weeks to come up with something that fast. Well, that was a long-winded example, but I think what's important is now you've got tools that can stack on top of other tools, making them even smarter. And, no one probably would have even thought of that if the tool didn't exist a year ago, right? This is all new.
Well, I use it in a similar way in which when we're doing job hires, I will
Mm,
feed it. I go, please familiarize yourself with, and I'll enter the URL. And then I'll say, and then here's the job description and the candidate's resume. And then I'll say, on the company, the job description, and the resume, I would ask its opinion on whether or not there's an appropriate fit, what they see as the strengths and the weaknesses of the candidate, if they would move the candidate to the next level and interview the candidate, and what questions they would ask the candidate during that interview.
yeah, totally.
And it's like, and then if you do personality profile, like we use print as a good personality profile, or if we do various sales assessments, we'll feed it either the personality assessment or the sales assessment, and then we'll have it create more. But
Yeah.
here's the other thing that I get all the time. So there's so many different apps. And people ask me, so which one do you like best? Do you like Gemini? Do you like Chat? Do you like ChatGPT? And I'm like, well, it depends. You don't build an entire house with just a hammer alone.
That's right.
Depends on your use case. So if we look at with that context, right,
Mm-hmm.
of the different AI tools and of the different AI, the LLMs and whatnot, which ones do you use for which use case?
So my standard go-to now, it used to be like ChatGPT because it was really good for general AI. And then I'd use Claude for all things writing, copy, and content because it generally writes better content. Now I've been using this chathub.gg because I really love to look at 6 results at once and make up my mind which one I like best, and also synthesize the results. Okay. So again, I'm gonna answer your question with a mini use case, and then I'll stack the other examples. So I was at a strategic coach meeting a month and a half ago or so, and Dan Sullivan gave us all a challenge, which was write down our unique abilities on a piece of paper. And then Dan's definition of a unique ability is, what is it that makes you particularly unique or special? I always call it a superpower. Everyone has a different one. So I'll give you mine as an example. Mine is integrating, and this came from Dan. So it's integrating the latest useful technology into marketing platforms that achieve entrepreneurial profitability in the easiest and fastest ways. And then my little addition is making automated systems that distribute messages in engaging and entertaining ways. I've got a long history of making complex stuff easy to understand and fun. So what Dan had us do is pair up with 2 other people. So we all took our unique abilities. One of them is a guy named Brian, who has been in the dentistry automation HIPAA industry. Okay. Kind of sounds boring, but it's interesting stuff. And the other guy is a banker who works with underserved people without bank accounts, who haven't used financial services. And all 3 of us, it turns out, are from Minnesota. Just a weird little trivia.
Wow.
All right. So Dan told us, okay, get together, and I want you to invent some IP, put your heads together and create a potential collaboration where all of your unique abilities would be combined to create something super special, super unique, and super valuable. Of course, everyone went off on their own doing this. And what I did is I created a prompt that I fed into AI, and it effectively said, we want to combine our unique abilities and our skills, come up with 10 interesting, unique collaborations that maximize our potential and our potential IP that we could invent together. And I fed that into this 6-way AI. Each one generated 10 results. So I got 60 answers. And then I copied all those. And I said, now synthesize all these ideas together and give me the top 10. And then we as humans, the 3 of us, eyeballed them and picked the ones we thought were the top 3. And then I told the AI to combine those and write a script. And we made a video. And then Dan showed that to the whole group. So basically, in short, what we did is invented a whole bunch of unique IP that by ourselves, we might have come up with 3 good ideas in an hour, right? Now we had 60 to draw from. We refined it and then synthesized that and then produced a brand, a video, a script. And I played that for everyone who was watching. And of course, the room was like, holy crap. You know, they just had this moment of how much time compression was possible, how much IP could be produced. And, you know, these are profound moments, very
For
profound, right?
Well, that's the thing that a lot of people don't see when it comes to the unique advantage that AI produces is that not only is it a brilliant thought partner and can provide you with a whole bunch of other ideas that you might not have thought about on your own, but the speed of execution. If you think about it, like when you and I were kids, the companies that existed back then, whatever company it is, let's say they had 100 employees to get one function done. About 20 years later, 15, 20 years later, that same company could be reduced from 100 employees down to maybe 20 employees.
Yes, totally.
And now we're at a day and age where theoretically we can actually take that company from 20 employees, depending on the company, down to maybe, 5 employees.
Yes.
Because there's still always a human, element there. But again, it's like now people are saying, well, wait a minute, Charlie, you originally said that it wouldn't replace jobs, but now you're saying it's replacing jobs. So is it replacing jobs or not replacing jobs? The question is I'm saying in the same function, you would be reducing it down to 5 employees. But if you wanted to create a substantial competitive advantage, you wouldn't have to get rid of any of those employees. They would up-level their skills, improve their value, their productivity, and you could still have a 20-person company, but the value, the return on time for each one of those employees would be off the charts.
Yes, this is a great place to stack what we were talking about before. So you'd ask, like, what other platforms do I use? So I'm going to give you a way of dividing the stack. And so I'm going to double bonus you. Okay. So there's a couple tools I use all the time. One of them is called Oasis, and that lets you narrate and you can talk. So like right now I could be Oasising this interview, and when I'm done, press a button and it'll write a LinkedIn post. It could write a TED talk. It could summarize everything. There's another tool that I love called Cast Magic that'll take this entire podcast and write emails, lead magnets. It'll do all the timestamps. It'll find the big ideas, the best quotes, and you can even train it to speak like you. And then there's another tool that I really like to use. It's great for coming up with ideas. It's called gamma.app. So it'll create keynote presentations, PowerPoint presentations. And again, the mindset I always use, this is the productivity multiplier, is ask multiple AIs to do the same project and then compare the results and hybridize or Frankenstein the results. Okay. So most people get stumped on staring at a blank page. So this gets rid of blank page syndrome really, really quickly. So the idea here, what I call the millionaire mindset, is let's find some common cheap apps that usually cost $100 a month or less, stack them together to become 20 to 200% more productive, and then train our teams to make good decisions on using those. Okay. So that'll be again, that's the millionaire mindset. So the billionaire mindset, and I'll give you a real life example of someone that we have in common. Let's just say it's a unique peptide doctor that we both have done a lot of business with. Okay. I was just meeting with him today. He's been a longtime client, and he won't mind if I mention his name. So we shamelessly plug him if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So Reagan Archibald. And so we've been helping him with grow his business for quite some time. And there's an app. So we were talking not too long ago about, like, what is your greatest bottleneck right now? And one of them is every time he analyzes blood labs, they have to analyze 84 markers. So a normal blood lab from a typical doctor might be 14 to 20 markers. He does a lot more than that, and he can tell a lot more. So you can look at your blood and say, I know what you're feeling at 2 p.m. or how you're sleeping without even meeting you, just by looking at your blood, and then give you the right supplements and peptides, et cetera, et cetera. So the challenge is to analyze that requires him, a registered nurse, and a couple other team members to look at the blood and then come up with a customized program plan.
Yep.
And what I offered and what we're talking about building for them is a tool that uses AI with all of Reagan's wisdom and knowledge, but could produce the 4 hours of work in about 5 minutes. And I said, if we could shorten the cycle, what would it mean for your business? And he said, well, we could triple our volume of patients without adding more people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think about that, that really means for you and me, it's not just tripling our revenue. That would 10x. That'd be an order of magnitude.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the training, the overhead, all the Mickey Mouse that goes in adding more people. It's not like you just added more costs. You add a lot more complexity. So the billionaire mindset is, where can you automate things using your unique capabilities, your superpowers, and package that? So the trillionaire mindset is when you commercialize it. So for example, if we took that same platform after it was built, we could sell it to other doctors for $10,000 a month if they knew that they could triple their profit, not just revenue, and sell it to 100. That's $1 million in monthly recurring revenue. So the mindsets that we talk to people about right now is, we can make you more productive. We can make your people more productive and using these tools and these little stacks and these sub $100 things. But then let's find that thing that makes you special and package that and automate it. But then let's think about, how could this be commercialized?
Yeah.
And I think when you really think down the rabbit hole of what AI represents, the internet put billions of dollars of infrastructure in the hands of all of us for almost no money. Okay.
Yeah.
AI is putting billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure in our hands that we can use for basically free. And we can't even imagine how the value we can create by stacking this stuff. We're still, we're crawling, and there's already marathoners that are standing in front of us. We just don't even see them yet.
But see, the brilliance in what you said goes beyond what you just shared with what you're doing with Reagan. The brilliance is that you had to be the one to come up with that. See, this is where the next evolution of the superior humans are going to be not necessarily the one with the answers. It's going to be the one that knows how to ask the right questions.
Yes.
And so, because the answer's already there. You came up with that because you were looking for a solution. So you had a question: how do we create this stack? How do we do this? How do we help Reagan? And you came up with a solution. And so when we look at AI, part of the muscle that we all have to develop is, for centuries, it was all about having the right answers and trying to be intelligent by being knowledgeable. Now we're more intelligent by being more creative. And there are ways that you can accelerate your ability to become more creative and to become that superior human. And some of that, like one of the prompts that I have in my custom instructions for ChatGPT, but when I'm not using ChatGPT and I'm using another search engine, is I will finish it with saying, ask me 3 more questions that I haven't already thought of before. After your answer, ask me 3 more questions I haven't even thought of before. And then it's like, I'll get 3 questions, some of which I'll be like, oh, that's awesome, now answer it. And it'll continue to go down this rabbit hole to allow me to get to level 2, level 3 thinking. But sometimes it just is that spark I needed to come up with the other question that I didn't even think to ask. And when you can ask the questions that your competitors haven't even thought to ask. You come up with answers that they don't have that gives you the edge that nobody else is having at the moment. That's where I geek out. We're in this phase where we can literally, do you know what mind perturbation is?
No.
So Tony Robbins' mentor, a guy by the name of Marshall Thurber. So
Yeah, I know who Marshall is. Yeah.
Yeah. So Marshall and I, we used to be good buddies for years and years and years. And we traveled together. We actually went to form a business together, the whole deal. Awesome dude.
Wow. Yeah.
He taught me this concept of mind perturbation. And he's like, the more information you feed your brain eventually it starts the cells start to shake and separate, and it allows you to consume more and more and more knowledge. And that's part of the ways that you become smarter. You consume more and more information, your brain expands to accept that information. And so ChatGPT allows for this, or all AI allows that mind perturbation to happen when you continuously encourage it to provide you with new and fresh perspectives and information, and you brainstorm with it over and over and over again. You become more intelligent as a human because you're expanding your horizon. We can learn at a rate that we've never been able to do before. You want to go for a walk, throw in your earbuds, and just have a conversation with AI.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So I'm going to give you something that maybe this is so damned obvious, but it's not obvious to me. It was like a lightning bolt to my head. It's another Dan Sullivanism. Okay. So my team and I built a AI of Dan's brain with one of his latest books. So there's all kinds of tools. One's called Delphi, that you can effectively train it with your knowledge and wisdom. And then you can ask it questions, and it's a great tool. And Dan told me, he said, what I've learned is people don't want to sit around and ask me questions. They want me to ask them questions. He says that's where they really grow. And just to go a little bit further on that, what Dan's really known for is creating thinking tools and asking you to think about your thinking. And you come across these really profound thoughts if you're asked the right questions. Now, one thing that I've learned, and something I cannot tell you how hard this is for me to solve. These are one of these things that keeps me up at night. So I'm going to be speaking and training at Joe Polish's in approximately 4 days. And every time I teach and I train or I do a presentation, I write about 60 to 65% of that presentation brand new and fresh for that audience. Like I really get to know who's in the room. I send out surveys, I ask a lot of questions, and I want it to be a really unique experience. I want to teach something that I will have just discovered or invented, because I want to push myself to learn even more and to find how to concentrate and deliver more value in less time that propels someone into a different direction. And so I'm creating this new curriculum, and I'm co-teaching this with the guy who heads up my development, which means I got to think even harder about like where we're going to share time and all that. Well, anyway, back to Dan and back to why this is so important. Something that I've found is extremely ineffective is I'll walk into a room and I'll be like, okay, what do you want to learn? What do you want to use AI for? And people are both afraid to answer that question because they want to feel stupid or be seen to be asking a dumb question, or they just don't know what's possible yet. So they're not sure, and I really have to ask them a lot of questions about where you're struggling right now, where your biggest dreams are right now, and help them understand what's even possible, and then find a way to give them a really simple win without it feeling like so basic they could have just watched a YouTube video and gotten there, or in a casual conversation learn something new. And so I think where I'm driving with this is you have to be really, really smart to know how to ask really, really smart questions. And the smarter you are, the better questions you start asking. And systems that know how to ask you questions that help you think about your thinking and actually learn and grow are really complicated.
Mhm.
To apply that kind of psychology and that wisdom, I think is where we're going to see a breakthrough that I'm still just starting to fathom. Like, and maybe I just might be the dumbest guy in the world, and this is so obvious that how could I have missed it? But to me, I'm having a lot of profound thoughts thinking about this particular challenge.
I love what you just said. People don't want to ask me questions. They want me to ask them questions. That's going to sit with me. That's good. That is powerful. Mike,
Cool.
so just like anytime we get together, time flies by so fast. We could talk for hours and hours and hours. But I know we're pushing up against the clock here. So this is the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. If there was
Yes.
one tip, your biggest, best tip for the companies wanting to take their business beyond seven figures, what would that be?
Create a story that sells a repackaged and repositioned version of your best product or service for 10 times more to an audience that's 3 times wealthier.
Okay, say that one more time.
Okay. Create a story
Yeah.
that sells a better version of your existing product or service. So it's better packaged, better positioned.
Yeah.
For 10 times more to an audience that's 3 times wealthier. Can I decode that a little bit for you?
I have to.
Okay. So this is loaded, but I've spent the past 6 years of my life doing is, and I didn't even know I was doing what I was doing. I had to do it a whole bunch of times before I realized that that was something special. But what most people struggle with their businesses and their personal brands is their own perception of their own self-worth is at a certain level. They're like, I can't charge more than this because it's not worth more. And you've seen that in your professional career as well, right? And the one thing that prevents all of us from doing that is telling a better story.
Yeah.
In other words, future pacing your audience into seeing a better version of their life with you in it, or your product or your service in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an incredibly challenging storytelling exercise. First of all, to see yourself as being worth 10 times more for your product or your service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then learning the language, the messaging of an audience that is wealthier,
Mm-hmm.
and then future pacing them inside of that.
Mm.
That's a 7-figure, that's an 8-figure, that's even a 9-figure mindset. And I believe that mountains can be moved by telling better stories.
Yeah.
And telling sales stories is so awesome because you literally, like you and I could sit down right now. In fact, that would be a blast. You and I could sit down right now, and an hour from when we started, we could have crafted a collaborative product and offer a story, a presentation, and think of or network our way in front of an audience, that would gladly pay for that would gladly pay for version of their future self, version of their future self.
If we actually did that exercise, can you imagine what would come out of that?
I mean, it's my favorite thing in the world to do. I just love collaborating like that because, you know, 1 and 1 truly makes 11 or 111 or 1,011 or 1,111. You know, it's like these are order of magnitude thinking exercises.
Yeah. Amazing.
And so I think that is humanity's future. You know, like Elon Musk, you can either love him or you can hate him. There ain't a lot of people right now thinking about getting to Mars and actually doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right.
And I thought he said this. Now I've searched for it. So I purposely misquote Elon Musk. So I think I may have accidentally made this up, or I thought I heard him say it, which is you got to blow up a lot of rockets if you want to get to Mars.
Yeah. No, actually, I've repeated that quote a number of times. He did say that. He said,
okay, I can't find it, but I stuck it in my latest book. But the bottom line is there's no penalty for iterating.
it was actually, the context was, it was a Netflix documentary. Um,
Oh,
and he was talking about how he only had so much money and he was going to go bankrupt. But what he wanted to do is he was under contract to bring that rocket back and be able to land itself again. And he
yeah.
said something along the lines of, you got to burn up a lot of effing rockets to find your way to success. And
Okay.
it's been like a motto inside of our company. We say, done is better than perfect. You're going to burn a whole heck of a lot of rockets on your way to success. I love that, man. The other thing that I want to kind of wrap things up with, when you
Yeah.
talk about increasing the price and the service and all that other stuff, one of our core philosophies is what needs to happen in order for you to be the most expensive vendor in the industry and still have people lining up to do business with you. Because anybody can discount. Discounting is easy. But when you can find ways to become the most expensive, Apple did that.
Yeah.
There are plenty of market leaders out there who've been able to do that and still have people lining up to do business with you. What it does is it changes your approach from being price focused, like if you're going to discount, it's going to be price and profit focused, to then all of a sudden it's value and results driven focuses,
Yeah.
and story and all that other stuff, which is far more valuable. Now, Mike, people want to learn more about you, the work that you
Mhm.
do. Where do we send them?
Okay. So I put something together just for you. So check this out.
Nice.
One of them is I'm giving it, anyone who listens and reads or watches this, a copy of my book for free. There it is. Oh, look at you. You got it.
Yeah, see?
So good job. So they can go to MikeKoenigs.com/CG book. Okay.
Nice.
And you'll get a copy of this for free. So MikeKoenigs.com/CG book. And then I have a demonstration that I put together of, and I don't know, did I walk you through our automated sales machine tool yet?
Digital Cafe?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. It's awesome.
Okay. So I have a link just for your readers if they want to see this thing in motion, but it's digitalcafe.ai/CG. And you'll get an automated me sending you an audio and a video. And of course, it's another way to get my book for free. So it's like a way to witness what I think is some version of the future of sales automation. And I'm completely obsessed with it right now. So those are the two best ways to start out. And that way you read my book, you get it for free, and then we can chat, because you can chat to me through my tools.
Awesome. So that's digitalcafe.ai, right? digitalcafe.ai/CG. And then the other one is
MikeKoenigs.com/CG book.
awesome. Perfect.
Yep.
Mike, it's always a pleasure. And I know we'll be speaking again in the next few days or whatever that is coming up soon.
Yeah.
And again, for our listeners, for more ways to grow and scale your company, so also remember to check us out at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. Charles got out with my dear friend, Mike Koenigs. Hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. This has been a lot of fun. And we'll see you in another episode.